Sophia stood by the full-length mirror, adjusting the delicate lace veil that framed her face. It was her wedding day, a day she dreamt of since childhood. The significance ran deeper, as it marked not only her union with Alex, her partner of 4 years, but also their 4th anniversary. She had planned a small, intimate backyard ceremony, a celebration of love surrounded by close friends and family. Every detail, from the floral arrangements to the handcrafted decor, symbolized their journey together. Yet, the joy of the day was tinged with a hollow ache, her father's absence. Initially, he had cited a medical emergency, a reason that stirred concern but seemed plausible. However, the truth unraveled quickly. Sophia learned that her father had chosen to attend a last-minute camping trip organized by her brother, Liam, who visited only a few weeks each year. The revelation hit like a thunderclap, shaking Sophia's composure. Her father had not only missed her special day, but prioritized her brother once again, reigniting the wounds of past favoritism. After a sleepless night, Sophia made a difficult yet resolute decision. Her stepdad, James, would walk her down the aisle. James had been a pillar of strength since her mother's passing, and while their bond was different, it was no less meaningful. When she called James to ask, he hesitated, understanding the emotional weight of her request, but ultimately agreed. As the wedding ceremony began, Sophia stood under the archway adorned with wildflowers, clutching James' arm. Her heart swelled with gratitude and sorrow as she walked toward Alex, who waited with a loving smile. The moment was beautiful yet bittersweet, a juxtaposition of joy and a father-shaped void. The day proceeded with heartfelt vows, laughter, and a reception filled with warmth. Yet, as Sophia glanced around the garden, the absence of her father cast a shadow over her happiness. Her mind drifted back to their last conversation, where he'd suggested rescheduling the wedding as if it were a mere inconvenience. The dismissal of her feelings stung deeply. Later that evening, Sophia sent her father a photo of her walking down the aisle with James. She knew the image would strike a chord, a silent message that conveyed both her pain and resolve. Hours passed before her phone buzzed with a message. "I'm sorry for missing this. Can we talk?" The following day, her father showed up unannounced, visibly distraught. He carried the wedding photo in his hand, his eyes glistening with regret. "I made a mistake," he admitted, his voice trembling. "I thought I had more time to make things right, but seeing this, I've missed a moment I can never get back." Sophia listened in silence, her emotions a tempest of anger, sadness, and longing. Her father then proposed something unexpected, a second ceremony, a chance for him to walk her down the aisle properly. The suggestion left her torn, her heart yearning for the father she once idolized, yet wary of his sudden change of heart. "I can't undo the hurt, Sophia," he pleaded. "But I want to make this right." The weight of his words hung heavy, yet Sophia wasn't ready to answer. She needed time to process the emotional fallout of his choices, the decades of favoritism, and her own conflicting feelings. For now, she resolved to cherish the memories of the wedding day she had, bittersweet as they were, and find solace in the love and support of those who had been there for her. The journey to forgiveness, if possible, would take time, and she wasn't sure her father truly understood that yet. Growing up, Sophia often felt like a shadow cast in the glow of her brother, Liam. From an early age, it was clear that Liam reveled in the spotlight. He had a sharp wit, a competitive streak, and an overconfidence that bordered on arrogance. Whether it was excelling in sports or charming the adults at family gatherings, Liam always seemed to be the favored child, a golden boy who could do no wrong in their father's eyes. Sophia, on the other hand, was quieter and more introspective. She excelled academically and thrived in creative pursuits, but her achievements often went unnoticed or were overshadowed by Liam's boisterous personality. This imbalance sowed the seeds of jealousy and resentment, emotions Sophia battled fiercely. No matter how much she tried to suppress them, the sting of being second best lingered. Liam, fully aware of his favored status, wielded it like a weapon. He would tease Sophia relentlessly, dismissing her interests as boring and undermining her confidence at every turn. His brash attitude made him difficult to confront, and Sophia often retreated into her room, nursing her hurt feelings in solitude. The strained sibling relationship reached its peak during their parents' divorce. The cracks in their family's foundation had been evident for years. Sophia's parents maintained a facade of happiness during holidays and social events, but behind closed doors, their unhappiness was palpable. Arguments between her mother and father became a nightly occurrence, their voices rising like a storm that refused to dissipate. Their relationship unraveled further when Sophia's mother confessed to having an affair with an old college friend. The divorce, finalized during Sophia's middle school years, was bitter and contentious. Their father, already emotionally distant, turned to drinking to cope, while their mother tried to rebuild her life with a new partner. The custody arrangement split their time between both parents, but the tension followed them wherever they went. Liam's reaction to the divorce was defiant. He sided unequivocally with their father, refusing to visit their mother except when legally required. His disdain for her new husband only deepened the divide. Sophia, however, chose a different path. Despite the pain her mother's actions caused, she sought to maintain a relationship with her, finding solace in her mother's unwavering love and the kindness of her stepfather, James. This choice created a new rift between Sophia and her father, who expected her loyalty. He viewed her connection to her mother as a betrayal, further distancing himself emotionally. Meanwhile, Liam continued to criticize their mother openly, aligning himself closely with their father's bitterness. Sophia's attempts to mediate between the two sides were futile, leaving her caught in the middle of a familial war that never truly ended. Despite these challenges, Sophia resolved to carve out her own sense of identity. She vowed to break free from the cycle of favoritism and strained relationships, though the scars of her childhood remained, a constant reminder of the sibling rivalry and fractured family dynamics that shaped her early years. Sophia could still remember the day her mother sat them down, her voice steady, but her eyes heavy with regret. "There's no easy way to say this," she began, her hands trembling slightly as she confessed to an affair with an old college friend. The revelation shattered the fragile peace that had lingered in their home, turning their parents' quiet tension into a full-blown storm. Her father's face darkened with a mix of betrayal and fury, and from that moment, the family began to fracture irreparably. The divorce was swift but left deep scars. Sophia's father, already distant, became bitter and withdrawn. His anger over the affair seemed to consume him, and he turned to drinking as a coping mechanism. Even on their best days, he was a shadow of his former self, his conversations tinged with sarcasm, his interactions with Sophia short and clipped. The warmth she once associated with him was replaced by an overwhelming sense of disappointment and resentment. The custody arrangement split the siblings' lives in two. They would spend half their time with their father in their childhood home, where silence hung heavy in the air, and the other half with their mother and her new husband, James. For Sophia, the transition was difficult but necessary. She longed for stability and found it in her mother's unwavering support and James' gentle demeanor. Despite her mother's past mistakes, Sophia chose to maintain a relationship with her, valuing the love and care she continued to provide. Liam, however, took a different path. His bond with their father grew stronger in the wake of the divorce, fueled by a shared disdain for their mother. He refused to spend time at their mother's house unless it was legally required, and even then, his visits were filled with tension and hostility. His resentment toward James was palpable, and he often made snide remarks, refusing to acknowledge him as part of the family. Liam's stance created a clear divide, leaving Sophia feeling increasingly isolated from her brother and father. The divide became more pronounced when their mother announced her plans to remarry. Sophia, though conflicted, chose to support her mother and agreed to be a bridesmaid. On the day of the wedding, she stood by her mother's side, dressed in a pale lavender gown, watching as James and her mother exchanged vows. It was a bittersweet moment, filled with both hope for her mother's future and a lingering sadness for the family they had once been. Liam, predictably, refused to attend. He scoffed at the invitation, calling the wedding a farce and accusing their mother of trying to replace their father. His absence was glaring but unsurprising, a testament to the growing chasm between the siblings. Sophia couldn't help but feel the weight of her brother's choices. His refusal to move past their parents' mistakes only deepened the wounds within their family. While Sophia sought healing and understanding, Liam clung to his anger, fueling their father's bitterness and perpetuating the cycle of pain. The impact of the divorce lingered in every corner of their lives, shaping their relationships and personal growth. Sophia's connection with her father remained strained, her attempts to bridge the gap often met with indifference. Her mother's wedding symbolized a new chapter, but the rift in their family was far from healed. Despite the challenges, Sophia chose to move forward, determined to break free from the shadows of the past. The divorce had left its mark, but it also taught her the value of resilience and the importance of forging her own path, even when the ties that bind her family threatened to unravel completely. As Sophia grew older, her decision to maintain a relationship with her mother and stepdad, James, became a quiet act of defiance that deepened the rift between her and her father. While her mother had made mistakes, Sophia believed in forgiveness and the importance of holding on to love, however imperfect. Her stepdad's kindness only reinforced her decision, as he provided the stability and support that had been missing from her father's home. Her father, however, saw things differently. To him, Sophia's choice to embrace her mother's new family felt like a betrayal. Over time, his disappointment manifested in subtle but painful ways. Distant conversations, a lack of interest in her achievements, and a growing sense of favoritism toward her brother, Liam. Liam thrived in their father's approval, feeding off his encouragement and basking in the shared disdain for their mother. Sophia often found herself on the outside looking in, painfully aware of her father's preference for Liam. It was in the way he laughed more freely in Liam's presence, the way he offered advice and praise without hesitation, and the way he seemed to genuinely enjoy their time together. Sophia, meanwhile, was met with polite indifference, as if her efforts to connect were futile. The distance between Sophia and her father became an unspoken truth, a silent wound that grew with each passing year. Then came the devastating news. Her mother had been diagnosed with cancer. The illness was aggressive and the prognosis grim. For Sophia, the diagnosis brought her closer to her mother, intensifying her need to cherish every remaining moment. She spent countless hours at her mother's side, offering comfort and absorbing every bit of wisdom and love her mother could give. Liam's reaction to their mother's illness was more reserved. Though he visited occasionally, his interactions were brief, almost perfunctory. His bond with their father seemed to outweigh any sense of duty to their mother. Sophia felt the weight of his absence keenly, but she chose to focus on the time she had left with her mother rather than dwell on her brother's choices. When her mother passed away, Sophia was shattered. Yet amid the grief, she found solace in the memories they created, the love her mother had shown even in the most challenging times. Her stepdad moved out of state shortly after, but they stayed in touch, their bond as strong as ever. Her father's reaction to her mother's passing was subdued, almost indifferent. Any attempts Sophia made to discuss her grief or share memories of her mother were met with silence or a quick change of subject. His favoritism toward Liam persisted, and Sophia realized that she would never fully have the relationship with her father that she longed for. Despite this, Sophia chose to hold on to the good moments they had shared in the past and to accept that some gaps in their bond might never be bridged. Her mother's death had taught her the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing the people who truly care. While her father's actions continued to disappoint, Sophia remained committed to building her own life, free from the shadows of his indifference. As Sophia finalized the last details for her intimate backyard wedding, she received a call that left her stunned. Her father, in a calm yet dismissive tone, suggested she reschedule her wedding. "It's just a small gathering, right? A few phone calls to guests and vendors should sort it out," he said. His reason? A spontaneous camping trip with Liam, her brother, who was back in town for only a few weeks. Sophia's heart sank. The day wasn't just her wedding, it was her fourth anniversary with Alex, a date imbued with personal significance. Rescheduling wasn't an option, and her father's suggestion felt like a cruel dismissal of her feelings. This wasn't just another example of his favoritism toward Liam, it was a clear statement of where she stood in his priorities. As Sophia drove home from her father's house, a mix of emotions swirled within her: relief, sadness, and a faint glimmer of hope. The journey of navigating her family relationships had been anything but smooth. It was filled with moments of love and laughter, but also with deep-seated hurt and disappointment. Over time, Sophia had come to accept that family bonds were inherently imperfect, shaped by choices, circumstances, and unspoken expectations. Her wedding day, meant to be a pure celebration of love, had instead laid bare the complexities of her family dynamics. Yet, amidst the hurt, Sophia recognized that growth often stemmed from these moments of clarity. She couldn't change the past or force her father to undo his mistakes, but she could control how she chose to move forward. This journey taught Sophia a vital lesson: self-care and emotional well-being must come first. She no longer felt obligated to carry the weight of her father's regret or her brother's immaturity. Reconciliation was a possibility, but it would happen at her pace, not as a response to their expectations. Sophia found solace in her chosen family, her husband, Alex, and the friends who stood by her side. She resolved to nurture the relationships that brought her joy and to protect her peace from the chaos of unresolved family issues. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, Sophia held on to hope for eventual healing. She knew that time and effort could mend even the most fractured bonds, but only if both sides were willing to meet halfway. Until then, she would focus on building a life defined by love, resilience, and the quiet strength of letting go.